Hello, everyone, and thank you for taking part in our session today on international co-production presented by Telefilm. For those who don't know me, my name is Rémi Dufour. I'm the Director of Film Finance and Economic Reporting at Creative Saskatchewan. On the call, we also have numerous other Creative Saskatchewan team members, just making sure that today goes smoothly. It's with a lot of excitement that I introduce you Lucie Meynial, who is a co-production analyst with Telefilm. Lucie holds a master's in film and television studies from La Sorbonne and has a vast amount of industry experience, such as managing audiovisual cooperation at the Consulate General of France in Jerusalem, as well as having worked at the Doha Film Institute. She joined Telefilm in 2019, and her role constitutes evaluating and recommending projects for recognition under the audiovisual treaty co-productions. So following her presentation, we've left a good portion of time for questions. You can feel free to type up any questions that come up into the Q&A section as they come to mind, and we'll get to all of them at the end. So without further ado, I'll pass things off to Lucie. Thank you.
Thank you, Rémi, and hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. So today, yes, we're going to speak about international co-production. A little bit about my team. So I'm a co-production analyst at Telefilm, and we are 3 co-production analysts, Antoinette Duré, myself, and Ainsley Keys. I am based in Toronto, so is Ainsley, and Antoinette is based in Montreal, and we are working with our national director, Julie Blondin, based in Montreal as well. So we're going to focus today on official treaty co-productions. I mentioned at the beginning, so a few other ways to do some international collaboration, like service productions and co-ventures. And a third one, official treaty co-production. So this is like my area of expertise, and this is what I'm going to talk about today. And it's like a way to work with international partner and to maximize national benefits. So an official co-production is an audiovisual work produced by Canadian and foreign co-producers in accordance with an international co-production agreement signed between countries. So what are the benefits of doing an international co-productions? It's first that you share the risks and responsibilities for the financing and production of your project with a co-producer or co-producers. Also, a certified co-production is considered a national production in Canada and also in the co-production country, co-producing country. And therefore, you have access to Canadian financing in Canada and also in the co-producing country. You may access selective and automatic funding from co-producing countries, and you may also access, like for feature film funding, or you can apply to Eurimage and Newdon. Eurimage, as I said at the beginning, is the European Council Film Fund, and Canada is a member of this fund. And Newdon is a fund dedicated to support emerging filmmaker and underrepresented communities. And what is also great when you do a co-production, it's like you access a greater distribution networks in your territory, in the foreign territories, and you also have access to a larger pool of creators and technicians. And also, as I was saying, in Europe, when you co-produce with the European countries, all the European treaties recognize Europeans as nationals of this country. So it makes so you can do a co-production with Belgium and have a German DOP, for instance, and it's acceptable. Yes, I also want to clarify something. I think it's useful. It's not because your project is going to be recognized as an official co-production that you are granted financing support. It's two different things and two different applications. So the Canadian players in treaty co-productions, so the Ministry of Canadian Heritage negotiates the treaty and sign the treaty to foster trade relations and to promote cultural diversity. And at Telefilm Canada, we administer those treaties. We are responsible for evaluating and recommending projects that may be recognized by the Department of Canadian Heritage as audiovisual treaty co-productions. And so we send our recommendation to CAFCO that also administrates federal tax credits, and ultimately they certify the project as Canadian. So Canada is really a champion in co-productions. The country has signed treaty and MOU with close to 60 countries. Among those treaties, some have been modernized. So to modernize treaties offer more flexibility in a way. So among those modernized treaties, for instance, Belgium, France, Ireland, New Zealand, Switzerland, and more to come. So I wanted to share some statistics with you, so you get a better picture of co-production in Canada. The main partners of Canadian producers are France and the UK. With France, we going to see more co-production in feature film, and with the UK, we're gonna see more co-production in TV. And then some more European countries like Ireland, Belgium, Germany, in the Middle East, Israel, and also New Zealand, Australia, South Africa are also partners, like recurrent partners. In terms of format, for the past 4 or 5 years, we see a majority of feature films being recommended as official co-productions, but it's it fluctuates. It used to be TV, and now it's feature film. But so you see, yes, in TV, documentary TV series, movie of the week, one-off, and there is like some short films. So it's good to know that co-production is, it's also for short films and TV and film content. And in newer treaties as well, and in some treaties, all the web content can also qualify as co-productions. If we look at the Canadian share, we see that there is a majority of minority co-productions. When we say minority majority, we're talking about the financing share. So if Canada is contributing 51% of financing to a project, we say that Canada is a majority country. And in terms of Canadian spend, it's good to note the positive fallout of co-production. Last year, for instance, it was around 150 million Canadian dollars that were spent in Canada on Canadian elements when it comes to co-production, and it was $190 million in 2018-2019. Then in terms of region, so we see that Ontario and Quebec are really taking the lion share in terms of co-production. But so I hope, like by giving also this presentation to producers from Saskatchewan, we get more co-production from the region. And in language, it's mostly English. But I think now we have a new way of looking at the language on our system dialogue. So maybe the other language are going to take a little bit more importance in our future statistics. And then in terms of budget, and this is the last slide of statistic, I thought it was interesting to share this because it shows you that like there's a wide range of budget level when you want to do a co-production. So we see that the majority of projects we recommend are between 1 million and 5 million. Actually, yeah, yes, and yes, but it can go, yes, over 20 million. I also went to look for project from Saskatchewan. So there is one that was recommended in 2023, 2024, The Myth of a Real Man, produced by Karma Film. If everything is on schedule, I think there should be in post-production now. Maybe they're on the presentation. And then hopefully more project will come from the province after the presentation. So this is a very dense slide, and it's I want to talk about the general requirements for co-productions. It's a little bit dense because each treaties are different, and each treaties have their own requirements. So really, if you want to do a co-production, I would encourage you to first read the treaty. This is super important. So what it takes to do a co-production, so you need, yes, an eligible applicant and a co-producer, and you need to be careful with the application deadlines. Some treaties have some deadlines requirement. Usually it's 30 days before start of principal photographies. But in some cases, like with Switzerland, for instance, it's 60 days. And in some treaties, it doesn't mention the deadlines, but usually we recommend producers to apply at least 30 days before the start of principal photographies. So what's important for you to determine is the percentage in the financial structures that must respect the treaty minimum contribution. Usually the minimum financing contribution varies from 10% for modernized treaties to 30%. And then for us to be able to move with a preliminary recommendation, we need to see that at least 40% of the Canadian financing is confirmed, excluding the tax credits. And then I draw some arrows between the financing percentage, because you need to have some balance and some proportionality. So for all treaties, you need to have a balance between your financing split and the creative contribution. So creative contribution, it's your key positions to begin with. And in some treaties, you have some requirement for the minority producers that need to at least contribute a writer, a performer. So you need also to pay attention to this in the treaty. In the modernized treaties, what's important is the proportionality article, proportionality requirements. You need to have a balance between your financing split and the national spend. And then in most of the treaties, you need to have a proportionality between the financing contribution and the copyright ownership, and the split of, the copyright share and the revenue share. One cornerstone document in your application is the co-production agreement between the special purpose vehicle company, raisers and parent companies. On our co-production webpage on Telefilm, we have a list of all the requirements, all the important information you need to have in your co-production agreement, so it can be a useful tool. And then treaties offer some flexibilities regarding non-party positions. In older treaties, it's more performers, and you need to demonstrate a business case why you need to hire a performer not from the co-producing countries. And then, yeah, treaties offer some tolerances. You need to check the tolerances and the flexibility offered by the treaties, like, for instance, location shooting. It's usually acceptable, like, for storyline, creative, or production purposes, and all those non-treaty elements needs to be requested, and it needs to be allowable. And in modernized treaties, you need to demonstrate that you have a distribution or broadcast commitment in Canada, and sometimes also in the co-production countries. So it's very general, and each treaty is different. So I really encourage you to go back to the treaty to see what exactly is required. Our review process is in 3 steps. The first one is a preliminary recommendation, where we're going to conduct an in-depth analysis. Usually we encourage producer to submit at least 30 days before principal photography, or according to the deadline. And you need to provide a declaration, like, of course, your co-production agreement, signed co-production agreement, the declaration of non-co-producing country elements, the available proof of financing in support of the Canadian participation. We're not going to look at the proof of financing of the other country, and some declarations as relevant. You can find the list of required documents on the Telefilm co-production webpage. And between the preliminary recommendation and the final recommendation, we're going to be in contact again to look at your credit list. I mean, we want to make sure that the project is still on track and meet all the treaties requirements. And finally, when you're done with post-production, you have your final cost reports. You submit like all your reports, final cost report, hyperlink to final production, the final declarations, and once everything has been deemed compliant, Telefilm issue a final recommendation letter. Important to note as well that your co-producer should apply to their administrative authorities at the same time, so we don't lose time, and we share like our evaluation with the foreign authorities, like we're on the same timeline. We share our evaluation at the same time. So like co-production follows a mutual approval process. And so at each stage, we communicate with the partner authorities. We must approve the same project. So make sure your application in Canada and in the co-producing country match. And usually it's like the majority countries that send the decision letter or the preliminary recommendation letter, for instance, and then the minority countries. A short note on multipartite co-productions, because most of the projects are bipartite, so it's like they involve at least one co-producer for each of 2 countries, so Canada and the partner countries, and they use one treaty. But multipartite co-productions are possible. Sometimes it's a way for you to partner with the country with which Canada doesn't have a treaty. And so in that case, in multipartite co-production, you need to use a minimum, if you're 3, a minimum of 2 treaties. If you're 4 partners, a minimum of 3 treaties. I think it's good when you want to go this way in a multipartite co-production. It's good if you can get in touch with us before, just to make sure the project is on the right, the co-production is on the right track. A note on minority co-production specifically. and I'm almost done with the presentation. And it has to do more now with our project financing team. They have introduced some a specific evaluation approach to co-production where the Canadian share is 30% or less. So there is some specific opening periods for this minority project. So here, the next one is March 3 to March 17, and also in June, you can find all this deadline on the production webpage information. So this is for feature film. And yeah, I think it's now our project financing team is going to look at this minority co-production to accommodate more the business angle of the project. So it's something to keep in mind. And finally, yes, some links to get more information. So the Telefilm co-production webpage, you're gonna find the list of the treaties, the co-production guidelines, the list of required documents. And yeah, what I want to say, it's like we're also here with Antoinette and Antoinette and Ainsley, my other colleagues. We're also here to answer some specific questions. So really feel free to reach out to us, and we're happy to help and guide you on the best way. And finally, if you have some question, and I saw some comments during the presentation, so I'm happy to answer them. So thank you so much for your attention, and I hope it was a useful presentation, and sorry for the technical glitch.
Thank you very much, Lucie. Yeah, we did receive some questions in the Q&A portion here. Do you want me to start reading them out, or do you want to read them yourself? How do you want to go about this?
I mean, yeah, I saw them as well, but if you, I mean, I'm gonna look at if you have some, I can take some question if you have already.
Sure, yeah. The first one, I see it's about a three-country treaty where Canada doesn't have an agreement. So that was covered in the multi-partite co-production. So I'll skip that one. The next one is regarding working with Taiwan. Is this region considered to be covered under the Canada-China co-production treaty?
Yes, it's an interesting question. I need to check. I need to check. We had this question before, and now I need to go back. Sorry. So like this person can reach out to me, and I can look again, because obviously it's not obvious. So yeah, I need to check on this one.
Okay, thank you. I see a few people asked if they could receive a copy of the presentation slides after. Is it okay, Lucie, if we email them out?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Okay, so the next question is, has there been any certified treaty co-productions between Canada and China, and also between Canada and India?
Yes, we have a modernized treaty with both China and India. Like the treaty with India, we have, I think we recommend maybe 1 to 2 projects a year with India. With China, I think it has been a long time since we have received like a co-production project with China. I think the relationships between governments are maybe sometimes complicated, so maybe it's one of the reasons. But we have a treaty, yes, with China, but no co-production recommended in the past few years.
Thank you. There's another question in the chat, wondering if you could describe what a modernized treaty is.
Yes. So modernized treaties, I think there is like, yeah, 3 main difference with older treaties. The first one, comes to the creative and technical aspects, in all treaties, usually you could only hire non-treaty performers. But in modernized treaties, you can have 1 to 2 key positions from a non-treaty countries, and so not only performers, but on a co-production using a modernized treaties, you could have a writer from a non-treaty country. So this is very new. You could have a director from a non-co-producing countries. But so you need to check how many can be, how many of these key positions, of the 8 key positions, can be from a non-treaty countries. But so creatively, there is more flexibility. And so now, like in modernized treaty, one key requirement is a proportionality, meaning the proportionality between your financing contribution and your national spend. They need to match. And finally, also the distributor requirement. In modernized treaties, you need to demonstrate that the project is going to be seen in Canada and in the partner countries. So I think this is the 3 main specific features of modernized treaties.
Thank you. Okay, another question I'm seeing here. I have a production to be partially shot in Thailand, which is not a treaty country. Is there somewhere you would recommend to direct us for details in shooting in that country?
Yes, so this is a good question. Most of the treaties allow for location shooting. So it means that if you're able to demonstrate why you need to shoot in Thailand and not in Canada or in the co-producing countries, it could be acceptable. So this is like a good start, or like a positive start. But after, I need to have more maybe more information on the project. But if the script takes place with Thai characters in Thailand specifically, yes, there is a possibility to do a co-production within other countries than Thailand and shoot in Thailand.
Thank you. Okay, I'm seeing another one here. Has there been any productions from a Canada, Southeast Asian country in the past recent years? Most conversation I had between producers from Vietnam, Philippines, and Singapore is that they mainly produce with EU countries and haven't really heard anything about productions in Canada.
Yes, I think this is what we also see in our statistics. And I was mentioning India with a few projects a year. Singapore as well is one of our partner. We have a treaty, like Singapore, we see a few projects also from time to time. We have a treaty with South Korea, but it's only for TV, so it's a bit limited for the moment. Then I know that our promotion team and our executive team have meetings with the Philippine Philippine delegation to really revive the treaty. So hopefully it will be fruitful exchanges. And China, as I said, we don't see many projects. But so definitely we would love to see more projects from this region, but you have the list of countries on the website, and yes, we have a treaty with Philippines. So there is several countries from Southeast Asia with which we have treaties. So we would love to see them used. So hopefully more co-production to come. But yes, I agree. It's not it's not like co-productions we see often for the moment.
Thanks, Lucie. Okay, so another one that came up here for producers that have co-productions with countries without a treaty, is there any support from Telefilm that you can recommend?
So usually this is where it can be like a strategic move to structure the project as a tripartite. So you find a project that has a treaty with like this country with which Canada doesn't have a treaty, and you can build this partnership around this, because we will, if there is an official agreement, an official co-production agreement between like the pivot country, we call it the pivot country, and the third country, Canada will recognize the third country as an official co-production partner. So there is a way to make this work, but it's requires maybe more research, and it's a bit more maybe complex because it's more partners involved, and but we have like this. It can work, and we're happy to help if there is some questions.
Awesome. Okay, another question here. On the list of countries with the top co-productions, France and UK were at the top, but USA wasn't on the top of the list. It seems that would be logistically easiest. Are they not there because of the lack of treaties, or why aren't there co-productions with the US?
Yes. So Canada doesn't have a co-production treaty with the US. I think no country has a co-production with the US. I think if you want to work with the US, you can use co-venture agreement. But yes, the US was not on this list because there is no official co-production agreement with the US, and it has to do with the public support. The audiovisual public support is not the same in Canada and in the US. So it's not really maybe worth opening our doors to US filmmakers when there won't be any reciprocity in terms of public funding in the US for Canadian producers.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you. Okay, so if you met all the requirements to apply as a co-production, what are the reasons why you wouldn't be recommended?
So yes, good question. Most of the projects that are coming to us get recommended. So we work with you to make sure that your project meets the treaty requirements. But I would say, like for instance, what won't get you recommended if the treaty requires a proportionality between your financing split and your revenue sharing, and in the co-production agreement we see like a discrepancy in this balance. We will ask you to change it so that your project becomes compliant, or if you decide to hire a US writer, but the official treaty specifically says that you can only hire non-treaty performers, and it will also be something to this one will be really complicated, but something to change. So yes, but usually all the projects that are coming get recommended.
Okay, thank you. We had another question, wondering if you could speak on international work visas, so bringing in talent from another country and working with Immigration Canada. Any tips or point of contact to facilitate that?
Yes. So usually we give the advice to it's really like with Immigration Canada, like this matter is really with Immigration Canada, but usually like there is in the treaties a paragraph or an article in almost every city that says that both countries should facilitate entry in their own territories. And so we recommend producers to to print a copy of the application, of the treaty, like for the crew or for the participants to carry with them. And usually it helps with the visa or and with like with the participants coming to Canada.
Okay, great. We also had a question about CAVCO points. So if you're familiar with, you know, if co-production is required to have the 6 out of 10 on the Canadian side, or how that might change with the co-production?
Yes, so like when the project is recommended as a co-production, the CAVCO points don't count anymore. It's like the analyst at CAVCO, and we have both relationship with the Ministry of Heritage and with also CAVCO analysts. So if they have a question or they're not sure, they could reach out. But so yes, you don't need this point. Like the creative contribution is calculated on the based on the financing contribution, and you could have only 2 key positions from Canada, and the project could still be eligible for tax credits.
Okay, awesome. And another question I'm seeing a few times, just worded differently, is about, you know, future looking, like what other treaties might we see in the future, and what the timelines might look like?
Yes, so very interesting question as well. There is a page on the Government of Canada website. I think there is a link in my presentation. But they're very transparent about it. I think now there is some talk, for instance, with Jamaica, or there is some conversation with the UK to modernize the treaties. There is also like a treaty with South Africa, a modernized treaty with South Africa that was signed but needs to be ratified in order to be effective. So there is a page on the government that lists all the countries with which the Ministry of Canadian Heritage has conversations now. Unfortunately, as you're all aware, with the changes at the government at the federal level, I think like all these modernizations of treaties or conversations are going to take longer until we know who the next government is.
Okay, thank you, Lucie. I think that's all the questions I'm seeing. We still have a few minutes. If there's any last questions, you can type them in quick. And if not, maybe Lucie, if you have any closing thoughts or comments.
Yes, no, thank you for all these questions. And no, my recommendation would be to read the treaties, to read the guidelines, and to reach out to us, and to reach out maybe as early as possible in the process, so you have time to adjust the project if you want to do a co-production. But we spend a lot of time with my colleague, on the phone with producers to answer questions. So yes, we're happy to do that.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Lucie, and thank you everyone for joining the session today. We'll share the slides and Lucie's contact information, to reach out for any questions or follow up from this. There might have been a few questions we missed, but thank you everyone for your great questions and your attendance.
Yeah, thank you, Remy.